market for your very first gravel dedicated bike. Buying a new bike can be a daunting task, but it doesn't have to be if you follow this simple guide. Before heading out in search of that brand new gravel bike, the first thing you want to establish is how much money you're going to spend. I'd say if you want to get a decent entry-level gravel bike, you're going to spend at least $800. On an $800 gravel bike though, you're going to pretty much get a bike with entry-level components, decent enough to get you into the gravel scene and kind of figure out if it's something you want to do. And then they're pretty good bikes, usually that you can upgrade the components later if you choose to do so. As far as where to buy your new gravel bike from, I'd say you can never go wrong with buying from a bike shop. A lot of times bike shops provide their bikes with a 1-year warranty, which is great because if anything goes wrong with the bike, you can basically just bring it in and they'll fix it. Some other options are Craigslist. I've purchased some bikes off Craigslist. Craigslist is great, but the problem with Craigslist is you never really can find exactly what you're looking for, but if you do find exactly what you're looking for, you can usually get it at a great price. Pink Bike. I've personally also purchased a bike from Pink Bike, and I've sold a bike on Pink Bike. The great thing about Pink Bike is it's like a massive Craigslist. The problem with Pink Bike is, just like Craigslist, oftentimes it's hard to find exactly what you want. But if you do find exactly what you want, you can get it at a great price. Another option if you're looking for a new bike, consumer direct brands. Consumer direct brands we're seeing become more popular. Canyon is a site that has some awesome gravel bikes that are really well spec'd, but you're going to get the really awesomely spec'd bike at a decent price. The thing is with consumer direct brands though, if something goes wrong with the bike, you can't just conveniently bring it to a shop. You've got to ship it back to the company, you've got some turnaround time there, so that can be a kind of a pain in the butt. If you're looking for a new bike that's really well spec'd, consumer direct brands might be the way to go for you. Great thing about gravel bikes is they serve multiple purposes. If you want a bike that can ride gravel but also do some commuting and some touring, you should probably look at a bike that has eyelets for mounts. A lot of gravel bikes will come with eyelets on the rear and eyelets on the front where you can attach racks, and then you can bring panniers and you can do some light touring or even some heavy touring. The next thing you need to consider when buying a new gravel bike is what type of frame material this bike is going to be made of. Typically gravel bikes are either made out of aluminum, they're made out of steel, they're made out of carbon, or they're made out of titanium. The great thing about aluminum bikes is typically they're cheaper, but they're still really light. Steel. My Kona behind me, this is a steel bike. Steel has a really great ride feel. They kind of ride like a Cadillac. The problem with steel is they're really heavy bikes. But one of the advantages of steel is if it breaks, you can pretty much find someone to weld it and you can fix a steel bike anywhere. They're good for gravel, they're good for commuting, they're great for touring. Carbon bikes are pretty much awesome. You're really probably not going to want to do a lot of touring or commuting on a carbon bike. If you're going to buy a carbon gravel bike, it's probably going to be specifically for racing or doing really fast gravel rides. They're built more for speed. The advantage of carbon is they're extremely light. Carbon bikes are pretty expensive, but since I've owned a carbon bike, my Specialized here is a carbon bike, it's awesome. Titanium. Titanium is, I guess you could say, the creme de la creme of frame materials for bikes. They say that titanium bikes are actually stronger than aluminum, but lighter than steel. I've never actually ridden a titanium bike, but the ride feel is supposed to be great. Problem with titanium bikes is they're extremely expensive. A lot of gravel bikes these days are using a 1x drivetrain. Typically what that means is the bike has one crank on front and usually 10 to 12 gears on the back. The great thing about 1x drivetrains is they're a little more simple because you eliminate the need for a front derailleur. The problem with 1x drivetrains is sometimes you're limited to the amount of gears you have. I have a 1x drivetrain on my mountain bike, and I honestly personally don't find myself wanting for any more gears. The other option is a 2x drivetrain. Basically, you've got a front derailleur that's got a big ring and then a smaller ring with usually 10 to 11 gears in the back. The good thing about a 2x drivetrain is you've got more gears. So if you've got an area that's really hilly and you want that smaller gear up front, you've got it. The problem with a 2x drivetrain obviously is the weight. It's a little bit heavier and you've got a front derailleur. So that's more mechanical issues that could potentially go wrong. As for brakes go, most gravel bikes you're going to find these days, pretty much at any price range, are going to come with disc brakes. That being said, there are two different types of disc brakes you have. You've got mechanical disc brakes and you've got hydraulic disc brakes. The Kona behind me, this is more of an entry-level bike. It's got mechanical disc brakes. The Specialized here has hydraulic disc brakes. Both are fine, both work great. I will say though that if you want to spend a little extra money and have a better braking feel and an overall better braking experience, get something with hydraulic disc brakes. If you buy a new gravel bike, one of the first things you want to do is set the wheels and tires up tubeless. The great thing about running tubeless tires is you can run lower tire pressure, and lower tire pressure on gravel means for a more comfortable ride. And if you do by chance get a puncture while on a gravel ride, that tire sealant in theory is going to seal itself. You want a bike that can fit some wider tires. The great thing about a wider tire is it's got more surface area. Sometimes when you're on gravel it can get loose, it can get muddy and a little bit sloppy. A wider tire is going to provide for a better ride. If you guys are in the market for a new bike in general and you're not sure what to get or where to start, give a gravel bike a hard look. The great thing about these gravel bikes is they can do a multitude of things. You can ride paved roads, you can ride gravel roads, you can even ride some single track on a gravel bike. I hope this little guide and these tips helped. If you guys liked the video, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, share, comment, all that good stuff. You guys have a good one.